Very true. I've definitely.
And it's not fair to the animal because the person didn't do the proper research ahead of time. I mean, granted, there are books that are filled with false information. I read one book many years ago that told me how to care for a green iguana. They told me to give it cat food and carrots. That was it.
I think one book that I read told me that you could maintain them on monkey biscuits. Moistened monkey biscuits.
Yeah. Those are horrible.
Monkey biscuits.
Horrible. That's horrible advice for such an amazing creature.
And it reflects poorly on us as keepers.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
It's a shame that, iguanas are still being imported into this country, believe it or not, in mass numbers for the pet trade. And they've got probably a 99% mortality rate. Very few, if any, of those Petco iguanas you guys see will ever make it to adulthood. That's a sad fact.
And if they do make it to adulthood, who's to say they don't have MBD or other major biological issues?
And we as an industry should be shunning this practice, but we don't. And these are the vulnerabilities that we have as an industry. We need to start policing ourselves more, stop being greedy. Green iguanas, we know they don't make good pets. They need to stop being sold as pets. But right now, the dollar reigns supreme, so the big chains aren't going to lose sight of that, unfortunately. And so the videos of animals in dumpsters and things like that will continue to surface, and PETA and HSUS will continue to have fodder because of these situations that we're not doing anything about. So these are some of the topics that we usually cover at Urban People's Radio.
Unfortunately, a lot of these animals are seen as disposable animals, Not a dog or a cat or even a bird, although some birds are considered disposable,
Parakeets.
Cockatiels, finches, they're not. No animal is a disposable animal, but because of this...
And if you're letting the situation go on, you're part of the problem. That's the thing. You can't stand by idly and be like, it's somebody else's problem, and that's when you're not going to be able... in the UK, you can't buy a goldfish. I think under the age of, 18?
Yes.
And don't think that can't happen in the U.S. at some point. And it happens with everything. Fish, birds, reptiles, monkeys, whatever.
I definitely learned in my pet store days that no matter what you said, everybody was going to order iguanas. They'd order them by the dozen. And your supplier would order them by the hundreds or thousands from their import contacts. And it was just a really sad thing. Very true. Money. It's a very sad thing to see. Try to educate people. And people just, they don't care. They want to shut their 12-year-old up by buying a $25 green iguana. If that's going to shut them up, who cares? Who cares if it dies? They'll buy another one next month when that one dies. They'll buy another one and another one and another one.
And for $15.99 at your local pet store, it's not a big deal to kill one.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when they're paying less than $10 a piece wholesale cost.
But your setup for an iguana, the proper setup for an iguana can easily run you over $250.
Absolutely.
That's just
absolutely
minimum.
Yep.
I've seen adult setups go for over $2,000. That's the dedicated keeper who wants to keep this animal in optimal health and the best color, feed it the best diet, and make it as happy as possible. And unfortunately, not everybody's willing to do that.
People aren't willing to do that for a corn snake. What makes you think they're going to be able to do it for an iguana?
That is the truth. But being a keeper and having the passion that I have for my animals and having the passion to teach people, I really try to think the best about people. But the truth is, not everybody is willing to put in the time, the work. Not everybody has that passion. They just don't care. So that's why they need people like you guys. That's why they need people like us over at Lost Aquatics. We have to get out there. We have to educate people. We have to spread the word and tell them, don't do this stuff. Would you care for your dog in the same fashion? No, because he's part of the family. Well, why isn't that reptile part of the family? Because it was $15?
And responsible retailers are a big part of that. So, places like Lost Aquatics really are pivotal in that, they have to keep the standard. Just like, we went to Ben Siegel's and Andy and I had said, my goodness, this is easily the gold standard for a reptile shop because everything's perfect and spotless and clean, and we need those retailers to set that example, because anybody can be undercover from one of these animal rights organizations and come in and, you're basically opening the door to legislation and restrictive keeping.
Yep.
Now, I've lived in Florida for, come January, it'll be 17 years. We moved from Maryland. I've seen dozens of operations in the state of Florida. And by far, Mr. Ben Siegel runs the best retail operation I've ever seen, hands down.
Yep,
I've
absolutely.
seen operations that come very close to it. One being Pinellas County Reptiles out near Tampa. They've got a great operation. But they just don't have the variety that Ben has. I mean, they're just as clean, their staff is just as great, but by far, I think Ben definitely sets the standard in the state of Florida, and probably the nation as far as wholesale stores go.
Yep, easy.
That is the best
Absolutely,
place ever.
absolutely. We don't, unfortunately, here in I'll just say the Northeast, I haven't seen anything for myself. I don't know about you, Danny, but I haven't seen anything that even comes close to what Ben has in, a person's own shop. I'm not talking about your Petcos or your Petlands or your PetSmarts or any of your pet whatevers. I'm talking about, John's Pets or Adam's Pets or Matt's Pets. I don't ever see anything like what Ben has, or even remotely close to what Ben has as far as quantity and, more importantly, quality.
This is true.
And it sounds like a plug for Ben. I'm not really kissing his ass, but I'm kissing his ass only because he has such a fantastic shop, and he has a great number of amazing people working for him.
Talent.
I've only been in his store a handful of times since moving out to the Fort Lauderdale area, but since I've been in his store, I've been in no other local store, and I've told everybody in the world that I know who's interested in retail operations. I don't care where you're at, order from Ben, order from Ben, order from Ben. He's got the best operation I've ever seen. Go to his shop. Do anything you can to get animals from Ben.
Absolutely.
And, when I was working at a wholesaler just a year ago in the industry, I saw Ben at every show we attended to buy stock, and I was always drawn to his table. Beautiful setup, beautiful animals. There's not a single skinny animal on his table. There's not a single malnourished animal. There's nothing with MBD. Everything has bright color. There's no scars, no cuts, no wounds, no nothing. They are perfect. Even his wild-caught stock looks perfect. They look captive bred. Everything is perfect.
And you know why? Because he cares.
He
He
does.
cares. And that's what it comes down to. Do you care for your livelihood? Do you care for your collection? Do you care for your customer base? If the answer is no to any one of those questions, do something else. Go somewhere else.
True.
You're not Ben Siegel. Go away.
So, one more comment that Paul wanted me to make for you guys was, our demographic at the moment is mainly male. Since we are trying to reach female followers, what does your demographic look like currently? Men versus female.
We got a lot of chicks, man.
Yeah, chicks, man. No, I'd say it's a mixed crowd. I would definitely say it's a mixed crowd. You don't think so?
Nah, I think we got more women than men.
You think so?
Yeah. I think it's
You don't
because
have stats you can check?
It's because it's you, right? It's because it's you?
I didn't want to say it, Andy, but
Yeah, well, I gotta feed that ego somehow.
He thinks that he's over there like,
Yeah.
Well, we know this to be true, Swamp Ape. We're not just joking around about it, Andy. You've seen it.
No, I have seen it. I have seen it.
so,
No, we have a lot of women because I think, like I said, I think women just actually dominate the hobby more than we realize it.
Yep. They're just
So-
not out. They're not the focal points. They're not out in front,
You know,
even
women-
though they should
yeah.
be.
Women aren't they are not the breeders that are filling their basements up with snakes, but they are the definitely the keepers out there, and our listeners and people looking to advance and people concerned with conservation and the zoological world and our natural world. So I think because of those factors and my inherent hotness, we have a very high female audience base, but not by a lot. I mean, it's probably maybe 60-40.
oh, it's still not bad.
But we
I
have
remember-
a lot of women, which is great. I mean, as far as like females that are active and also professionals in the fields. Many of them are also, dedicated breeders. So we have everything from, the bedroom breeder who keeps a couple of leopard geckos or crested geckos to, Denise, which will be on next week, and, so many of the other women that we've had on our show that are just really, truly amazing. Emma Locke, who's an amazing actress from the UK. She's doing a lot of stuff. She's been in Hollywood movies, and yet she's still working on trying to do animal outreach education and conservation. So we've been lucky to know a lot of amazing women, and I think just because also I think they reach out to us more, we definitely have more women. So they're out there. I mean, I know you're saying that, you don't think you have that many, but the women are just quieter. They're a little more soft-spoken and a little less testosterone-y, obviously, about certain things. Like my fish is best,
Some
or
of
my
them.
snake is
Some of
best. Some of them. That's true. So, I mean, but they're out there. Yeah, they're out there, man. They're out there for sure. And we love our women. We love our reptile, fish, bird, invert women. We love you all. You're all the 10 times sexier, more beautiful than the average woman.